The Week 15 edition of the HBCU NFL Report is coming at you right now, where we keep you guys updated on some of your favorite Black college football stars in the pros. I am Symone Stanley, as always, joined by Lute. And Lute, it is the holiday edition. We have games on Christmas Eve. We have games on Christmas Day. Both of our teams are playing on Christmas Eve. How are you feeling?
Looking forward to it, actually. Looking forward to it. Usually everyone plays on Sunday except the Thursday and Monday games, but just because of the Christmas holiday, they will be playing on Saturday. So, my Steelers will be playing the Las Vegas Raiders on Saturday. And who are the Eagles playing?
You know who the Eagles are playing, Luke. We're playing the Cowboys, the little boys. It ain't nothing for us, you know what I'm saying? About to sweep them.
Gotcha. I hear you. Good luck with that.
Good luck with the Raiders. But, Luke, let's talk about two former HBCU quarterbacks, two former HBCU stars that are now making moves on the next level, starting with Quinn Gray. Former FAMU Rattler is now the head man in charge of the Albany State Golden Rams.
Yeah, and Quinn Gray is one of the guys who has worked his way up from the time that he was a great player for Florida A&M back in the late 90s, early 2000s. A 6'3", 245-pound quarterback. Big guy. He didn't look like a quarterback, but he certainly played like one. And he was the last quarterback and the last team out of the MEAC to win a game in the FCS playoffs. In fact, I think it was still called the 1AA playoffs back then. He led the Rattlers to the semifinal round in 1999, I believe it was. But he was a great quarterback. He left FAMU with a lot of records and then had a very interesting career. I think it was 6 total years in the NFL, primarily as a backup. He did get in some. He played for Jacksonville. I think he started his career with Jacksonville, undrafted, much like a couple of other quarterbacks that have come out of the HBCU ranks that don't get drafted but make their way into the NFL. So he played there for several years and then has been an assistant at Alcorn. He's been an assistant at Florida A&M. And most recently, he was an assistant, offensive assistant and analyst at the University of Memphis. So he's paid his dues. Obviously, this is a promotion for him and an opportunity to come back into the HBCU ranks. He'll be taking over from Gabe Gardenia, who had done a very good job at Albany State in the 4 or 5 years he's there. He's returning to a previous place he had been at Charleston Southern. So we welcome Quinn Gray back into the HBCU ranks. I think he'll do an excellent job trying to continue the success because Albany State is one of the powers out of the SIAC. So a great move for Albany, great hire. I think that'll bode well for the Golden Rams.
Congratulations to Coach Gray. And like you said, Albany State has been a powerhouse lately in the SIAC, so we can expect to see that continue with Coach Gray in charge. But let's talk about another former HBCU quarterback. This guy wasn't 265 pounds under center, but he had a rocket arm. We are talking about Aqeel Glass, former Alabama A&M Bulldog. He went undrafted in the 2022 NFL Draft. He did get a rookie camp invite with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That ended up not working out, but now he has a chance to play professional football. He was just signed by the New Orleans Breakers of the USFL.
Yeah, and he's a guy who set some passing records at Alabama A&M, 2-time SWAC Offensive Player of the Year, 2-time Black College Offensive Player of the Year from the Black College Football Hall of Fame. He really made his name playing quarterback for Connell Maynard down at Alabama A&M. Connell came in, I think, when he was a sophomore. He had really struggled, had a lot of interceptions his first year, had thrown the ball well, but had a lot of interceptions. But Connell turned him to an all-conference player. And with him as a quarterback, Alabama A&M won that abbreviated pandemic 2020 season that was played in the spring of 2000.
All you had to say was that they won. You didn't have to add all those extra adjectives, Lou.
I'm just saying that it was a year that several teams didn't play. Alcorn didn't play. Some others didn't play. It was an abbreviated schedule, but Alabama A&M came through. Connell not only won the championship, but he got a new contract as a result of that. And, we're seeing the remnants of that now. He's been chasing Deion Sanders for the past couple of years, but Aqeel was the linchpin of everything that the Bulldogs accomplished at Alabama A&M. Glad to see he's getting a shot. He didn't weigh 245, but he was not by any means a small guy as a quarterback. He's about 6'2 and a half, 6'3", about 220 pounds. I think he'll do well in the USFL. I'm absolutely excited he's getting a chance to prove himself.
And we saw a lot of former HBCU players playing in the USFL last season in their inaugural season. And a lot of guys who played in the USFL got chances in the NFL this season. So we are going to keep our eye on Aqeel Glass. But Lou, it is time to get to our players of the week from week 15. Both of our teams got a win.
Yes, they did. Both the Pennsylvania
teams. I think you gave him co-defensive player of the week. I don't know how I feel about that.
Of course, you would have a question about that. But Javon Hargrave was our first choice, really, in the sense that he had 2 sacks in the Eagles win.
On Justin Fields? Let's talk about what a tall task that is.
That is. And
chasing down Justin Fields?
And he corralled him twice. The interesting fact is that Javon Hargrave, in his 7th year in the league, this is his first year getting double-digit sacks. He's now up to 10 sacks. He's tied for 12th in the league with those 10 sacks. That's a big accomplishment for him, and that means that he's going to be even bigger target come free agency when he's trying to sign a new contract. The Eagles, I'm sure, are going to try to keep him, but they're going to have to outbid some other people because he's establishing himself as an inside pass rusher, perhaps the best or among the best 2 or 3 or 4 in the NFL. So he had two.
He'd been established that. That's why we signed him from your team when y'all didn't see his value, Lute. Y'all are just now waking up to this.
Well, we understood his value, but we weren't willing to pay the price that the Eagles were going to pay, and that's understandable because we had already signed some other inside rushers for some significant dollars, but I wouldn't be surprised to see the Eagles. The Steelers. We're known to let people go and then go back and get them and bring them back.
You have to pry Javon out my cold, dead hands, Luke.
Okay, Charlton Heston, I got you. But no, he should. That's a big accomplishment with 3 games to go in the season.
With 3 games
and he's got double-digit sacks, and he's probably not finished, which means he'll finish with. He's already gotten a career high. And he has a chance to get even more. But that was a big win, a close win over Chicago this past week for the Eagles. It was a big win. But we couldn't only choose him when we have a kid only in his 4th game in the NFL has had a sack in every game. That's James Houston. James Houston out of Jackson State. Yeah, you got to give him his props. And he's already set records for having sacks in his first 3 games played in NFL. Then he got another one this past week when the Lions, who did they defeat this week? The Lions got by the New York Jets 20-17. And he had a sack on the last play of the first half. And listen, this is a guy, as we said before, he had 16 and a half sacks for Jackson State last year playing for Deion Sanders, a guy who just really loved playing on the HBCU level after spending 3 years at Florida. And now he is proving himself. And here's the big deal. He went in the 6th round. They picked Adnan Hutchinson from Michigan in the 1st round. He's played every game. He's played 14 games, 15 games on the season. He's only got 7 sacks. James Houston, how about that? Right. He's got 7 sacks. And James Houston, who's only played 4 games, has 5. So who's the bargain? Who's the guy that you really should have gone after? If he played 14 games at his rate, he would have 14 sacks, so to speak. So Hutchinson came out much ballyhooed out of Michigan. So this just tells you the same thing we've talked about before, that the guys that perform on the HBCU level can perform on the NFL level. And he had not only a sack, but he had 3 quarterback hits. He's gone from, he had 2 sacks the first week in 5 plays. The next week he had a sack on 12 plays. The 3rd week he was in on 20 plays. This week he was in on 25 plays. So his playing time is increasing, and the more opportunities they give him, the more likely he is to produce even better numbers. So again, hats off to James Houston for really showing out and showing up for the Detroit Lions out of Jackson State.
And when we talked about James Houston for the first time on Thanksgiving, he made his debut on Thanksgiving. Like, what a stage. And again, the Lions always play on Thanksgiving, so that's a sacred day in football for Lions fans. And at that point, we thought the Lions season was over, but no, Luke, they are in the hunt to get a wild card spot now. They've been on a hot winning streak, and probably because, they got another weapon to deploy on defense in James Houston. So let me ask you this, Luke. The Lions, Saturday, all eyes on Christmas Eve. We're just going to be eating, watching football, waiting on Santa. The Carolina Panthers. How many you think James getting a sack? No sack? What you taking, Luke?
No doubt he's getting a sack. No doubt. The Panthers, even though
they've been
No, we can do some money on it because the way he's going, if you've seen every one of the sacks, I looked at the video of each one of them. He's using his speed off the edge. He's been ducking under these big offensive linemen. He's been hesitating. He, puts a stutter step on them, then uses his quickness to get around them. So I'm sure the Lions are loving that. The interesting thing is that it took them so long to really get him on the field. So he's the first player since 2000, the year 2000, that's 22 years, to have sacks in his first 4 games playing in the NFL. Big feat for James Houston. So that's why I had to give him, even though he didn't have quite the output, he didn't have the double sacks that Javon Hargrave. I thought he deserved it. We got to keep our eye on him. So we had co-defensive players of the week this week.
I mean, I guess if Javon has to share his award with somebody, it'll be James. And this is a career high. I don't know if we mentioned that for Javon Hargrave. Yeah, obviously, every game is a career high for James Houston because he's a rookie. But this 10 sacks for Javon, career high with 3 games to go. So James Houston has the Panthers. Can't even name their quarterback. I'm sorry. Javon Hargrave has the Cowboys. I think Javon will get a piece of Dak Prescott. James will get a piece of whoever's under center for the Panthers.
Sam Darnold. We beat the Panthers this week. The Steelers beat the Panthers this week. Darnold was the quarterback. He'll get some shots at Darnold, I'm sure.
Let's talk about Offensive Player of the Week. We have a new guy debuting on the Player of the Week, making his debut week 15.
We absolutely do. And, when we go through every game that's played and look for the HBCU players, you first look at see who got into the games. Not necessarily who started, but who got in. And I was surprised to see this week that Dalen Baldwin, another Jackson State product who actually left Jackson State for his final year, he went up to the University of Michigan. I saw that he was on the list of guys who played. And then as I looked further, I said, he made 2 catches. Now, he was probably the best receiver for Jackson State in Deion's first year at Jackson State. And surprisingly, instead of staying at Jackson State, he decided to move to the FBS level. Who do we know that's done that recently? And he decided to go to Michigan.
Like player, like coach.
Yeah, how about that? And you would think that would be a big step up, but he was actually productive at Michigan. He was amongst the leading receivers in that pandemic-shortened season of 2020-21. He was one of the leading receivers in the conference, and I think he was the leading receiver for Jackson State. But he decided rather than spending another year with Deion that you think would get him in the league, most people think that way, he decided to take his shot and go to Michigan. And he went to Michigan and did well. He didn't get drafted, but he did get signed by the Browns and demonstrated in the preseason he was good enough to be on the practice squad. So this was his first game. He had 2 receptions for 25 yards. As the Browns beat the Ravens 13-3, team we should have beat the week before, but that's another story. But he had 2 receptions for 25 yards. Dalen Baldwin. In fact, he had transferred to Jackson State. I've forgotten what his first team was. So he went from one team to Jackson State to Michigan and now to the NFL. And again, another Jackson State product. And, based on what Deion has said, if you come to Jackson State, he wants to get people in the pros. These are 2 examples this week that we have as our players of the week.
So 2 Jackson State players, 1 South Carolina State University Bulldog. Our special teams player of the week. If you've watched this show, you already know who the special teams player of the week is. And I needed this team to lose, really, but.
Yeah, and I picked Jamie Gillan. I picked him over Kadero Hodge. He had 2 Cordero Hyde's playing for the Atlanta Falcons had 2 special teams tackles, but Atlanta lost to New Orleans 21-18. So I usually try to go with teams that win or players on teams that win. And Galan had his usual. He had a 42-yard average. He had a long punt of 56 yards as the Giants knocked off the Commanders of Washington. Tough game, 20-12. So Jamie Galan, if we're going to pick a special teams player of the year, he's probably a shoe-in because out of the 15 weeks that we've played, 14 weeks he's played, he's been our special teams player of the week for probably 10, 11 of those weeks. So he's that pick once again. So those
probably
are our
13 weeks.
Yeah, those are our players of the week so far. Javon Hargrave, James Houston, Dalen Baldwin, and Jamie Galan.
Well, Luke, we are moving on to week 16. We got games on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. It's going to be full of football. Both of our teams play on Christmas Eve. I'm glad we kind of get that out of the way on Christmas Eve. You know, people might still be traveling. You know, if something funky happened in my game, everybody might not see you.
Yeah, so the big question for you guys is, are we going to see Jalen Hurts? We talked about it before we got on air. I hope they rest him because they're going to need him to be healthy for the playoffs. You know, I know you talked about your backup Gardner Minshew. We actually played our backup this week to beat Carolina, Mitch Trubisky, who I'm not very high on, but it looks like we're going to get our starter back after being in the concussion protocol. Kenny Pickett is going to come back. So all eyes on both of us will be on Christmas Eve. But in the meantime, Merry Christmas to you and all of the HBCU game day folk. And look forward to analyzing what happens in the coming week.
Yes. Week 15, rolling to week 16. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, whatever you celebrate. But guys, I am Symone Stanley. He is Luke Williams. We are here with the HBCU NFL Report on HBCU Game Day. Thank you guys so much for joining us.